Hello and welcome, whaleheads. This is the Helping Friendly podcast, the longest running fish podcast in the fish universe.
Wow.
So long that hosts of other fish podcasts are now co hosting the Helping Friendly podcast. We welcome you all. We are here to guide you into the world of fish, be it if you learned about us from Barstool or Questlove or just from the whale walking around New York City after April 22nd. And you were like, hey, where did you come from? And the whale was like, I just hung out and performed at the fish show. And you were like, well, what's fish? I thought you were a whale. And you ended up diving into 1997 fish. I'm going to stop right now. This is the Helping Friendly podcast. My name is Brian Brinkman. I'm here with RJ, Jonathan, and Megan to talk about whales. How's everyone doing today?
Well, actually, they're mammals. Sorry.
They are mammals.
Somebody
Thank
had
you.
to. I had to be the well actually guy. Thank you.
Unbelievable.
It's like Twitter come to life.
It really is.
That's terrifying.
How you guys doing today? We're coming off of a 4-night excellent fish run at Madison Square Garden here in April. I'm giving away the lead right now. It was an excellent run. Show over. How is everyone feeling? I think Megan, you were the only one of us four who did all 4 nights. So I guess we'll start with you. How are you doing today?
I feel great. My soul is full. My body, not so much. But yesterday I was bragging about how great I was doing and how great I was feeling and how I was like reverse aging. And, and I'm not feeling that way anymore today. But it's okay. I'm here. I'm psyched to talk about this run. And if I had a few more days, I maybe wouldn't do another show tonight, but I'd probably do one by this weekend.
That break after a 4-night run is tough. And then you go back and do more shows. Like, I can't really imagine that. Fish used to do, I think it was like summer 2010, they would do Thursday through Sunday and then they'd break and play Tuesday night. And I just can't even imagine being on tour and doing that Tuesday night show. Just got to be exhausting.
Warriors.
No, that's the one. That's the one you got to catch.
That's always the one you got to catch.
Agreed.
Jonathan, how are you? We've talked once over this weekend, aside from a ton of texting. How are you feeling? Did you enjoy your fish from afar?
I time shifted a lot of this fish, so I watched some of it live and other bits of it not live, and listened a lot and various settings, and so yeah, I'm great. I've really enjoyed the music that I've heard, and I saw a whole other band during this time while everybody was seeing fish, and what's to complain about?
What is to complain about? It's the end of April. We have fish shows on the horizon yet again.
I got a window.
We just
open.
came from fish shows. We've got a window open. It's nice.
Yeah.
I'm making cheeseburgers tonight. Like, everything's pretty good right now.
Sounds amazing.
RJ, you went to half of the fish shows.
Wow.
How are you feeling?
I feel good. I feel I'm good. I'm great.
Good.
I think
sure?
we should, not to make this into like another pandemic story, but like basically everyone I know who went to the shows is not feeling well from COVID or something else. Like it's
Same.
how it goes, and
I've heard that.
Yeah, and it's there's nothing at this point anyone going to concerts in a packed place during a pandemic, like, it's gonna happen. I don't think anyone's really upset about it. It's not like when people like got COVID on summer tour and they would like go online and like, can't believe these concerts happened and I went and I got sick. It's so annoying. Like, I think everyone's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, I think everyone feels, I mean, not everyone, but the people I know feel fine. And like, it's just kind of like an adapting part of the experience of live music, I think, not just fish, but any concert you go to at this point, which I think is kind of interesting how it's shifted.
Well, now you can get COVID. I mean, kids get COVID at school. People get COVID going out to dinner. So I think everyone's just kind of like, you just got to live your life. And if you get COVID, you get COVID, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier for us going to the show and we get sick, we stay home. Not so easy for some of the touring musicians out there, though. So, because like Fish, they don't have more shows coming up, but a lot of smaller acts playing smaller rooms are getting sick and then losing their shirts, frankly. So, if you're going to see shows in small rooms and whatnot, like MSG, I don't know what to tell you, man. That's going to happen. But if you're going to clubs and stuff, please wear masks so that the bands who are, operating on a shoestring can keep operating, please. So I just want to plug that bit.
I think that's a fair way to look at it. I think tellingly, there has not yet been a hit piece about the Fish shows and them becoming a spreader event on a local Boston news channel. So we're
Not
good
yet.
there.
It's
Not
only
yet,
Monday.
Not yet. It's only
Yeah,
Monday.
give
They
it
gotta
time.
they gotta start producing it. I think it was a really fun weekend, and we're going to dive into, at least from afar, it looked like a really fun weekend. And every conversation that we had with people who were there, we had a lot of really good conversations over the weekend. Anyone that I know that I was texting with who was there, everyone seems like their heart is full in a really cool way. It reminds me a lot of how people were feeling coming back from shows last summer, where there was this equal, man, I realized once again how much I needed that. And also this, man, Fish just continues to be on a hot streak. And we're going to talk through all of that here today, share some of our favorite moments of the MSG run, share some of our favorite jams, some of our favorite sets, as well as some of the stuff that was going on outside of the shows. I know RJ has some field reporting about what was happening before concerts, before and after concerts, and kind of some really cool stuff that was going on outside of the concerts. Because as we all know, this is not just a concert event. It's in a lot of cases a reunion of the community every time that it happens. Before we do that, though, we do have some wonderful sponsors that we want to tell you all about. Jonathan, are you telling us about Sunset Lake today?
I can do that. Sunset Lake CBD line. See, I already blew it, so maybe somebody else should do it. I'm kidding. I'll do it. Just hang on. Sunset Lake CBD's line of smokable hemp products are for the old deadhead, hi, or young fish fan searching for a mellow body high.
That's me.
The young fish fan. Are you
Yeah.
sure?
RJ's the young fish fan.
Are you sure?
I'm an aged vet.
Smoking CBD has all the benefits of high THC cannabis without the paranoid and anxious side effects. With 9 different strains from this year's harvest, there is something for everyone. The Hawaiian Haze is awesome for an outdoor show. The Cherry Abacus is best for the end of the night. All of the flower is grown, cured, and trimmed by Sunset Lake CBD farmers. Even better, Sunset Lake CBD's farm-to-table approach gets you great pricing on premium CBD flower by shipping directly from their farm to your door. I mean, this stuff is great. It's packaged well. It comes fast when you order from them, and it's really nice. You think that it's going to be wildly different from regular cannabis flower that you're used to, and it just reminds you of that when you have it in your hand and crumble it into and it's delightful, and it makes a great smoke, and I dig it. So check them out today at www.sunsetlakecbd.com. Use the coupon code HFPod for 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer owned, Vermont grown. I would say you eventually.
I would say you smoked that ad read when it all came down to it. So that was great.
It crumbled nicely.
That did. I want to tell you guys as well about Cash or Trade, which is the only secondary marketplace where fans can buy, sell, and trade tickets at face value. The last part, that's the key, face value. Fans are able to DM each other before, during, and after transactions. You can rate and review each other when a transaction is completed. There's no added fees to sell your tickets, and all sales are fully protected by Cash or Trade's Trader Protection Policy, which guarantees your money back should there be any issues. Users can avoid purchase fees with a gold membership subscription. Highly, highly recommend that gold membership subscription. Allows you to see what's available immediately. And again, you avoid any purchase fees. Please visit cashortrade.org to learn more and to utilize their service, especially now that we're coming off of 4 quite excellent fish shows and we are going into summer tour, and tickets are going to be traded for cash or trade value. Pretty amazing stuff.
Well, now that the band's gone viral on the internets, you want to make sure that if you've got tickets you can't use, you get them in the hands of a fan, somebody you know is going to use them right, and Cash or Trade will do
Do you
that for you.
think that the viral nature of that tweet is going to have any impact on Fish?
No, they're too weird.
Nah, I would wager that there's going to be somebody who'll show up because they saw it there, but they were probably on the bubble anyways. They're outside our group and they'll come check it out. But I don't think it'll make a real difference now.
Yeah, I feel like the nature of the viral video in like modern internet culture is more like people just become curious about something for 45 minutes and then it's gone. I don't know if it will really translate into tickets being bought, but we'll see.
Most people will be like, huh, well, let's see, what this band Fish did, would they play a show near me? Check, check, check. No, or yes. Oh, it's sold out. Oh, well, there you go. Problem solved.
I do think it's cool that they got a moment of like being praised in like the larger cultural zeitgeist, even though if you clicked into some of those tweets, there's the still, oh, but too bad about the music kind of comments that, I don't know what to tell you, man. If you're making those jokes on the internet, I guess that's what happens whenever I like comment on Twitter about like the Milwaukee Brewers. It's basically on that level. Just like you're never going to get me to say anything positive. Yeah, well,
no, I'm just kidding. I honestly, sincerely don't
know. Before we take this down the route of baseball, RJ, you were at the fan art convention, the fan art show on Friday afternoon, and you and Tom were set up selling sugar maple posters and meeting fans and talking with fans. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience before we jump into like the larger breakdown of music?
Yeah, I would love to. I also just first want to say I was able to meet Megan at we did an after show that Osiris helped sponsor and promote called Dab Sessions at the Cutting Room, which was near Madison Square Garden after the first night. And it was great to meet you in person, Megan. It was fun. It was a fun show. And I went in and I knew all the people who were going to be there. And I went downstairs to the backstage area to say hi to Scott Metzger and like talk to Tom. And then I walked in the room and I realized that John Medeski was sitting there because he's part of the band. And I didn't really mean to, but I was like in a, blissful state of being. And I ended up like for probably 5 or 10 minutes, like pouring out my heart to John Medeski and telling him how much his music meant to me and how much it changed my life when I was like a 13-year-old. And I really didn't mean to do that, but I did. And he was very nice. And
it seems to me we were at Delfest some years ago and Chris Wood was like right there. And you were like, I think I need to tell him all of those things you just described. And I'm not sure if you were able to, but I remember you were like ready to if you had the chance.
I wanted to. Exactly. I just wanted to share that because that was fun and unexpected. Probably more unexpected for him than it was for me. But so on Friday we had this fan art show at the Stewart Hotel, and we had hundreds and hundreds of people come up to us, to Tom and I, and just thank us for HFPod and Undermine and Osiris. And it's just so nice to hear from people. And I just want to encourage everyone to say hi when you see us, because it means a lot and it's really helpful. And we sold a bunch of posters and told a lot of people about Sugar Maple. Tom was like doing such an amazing job of getting the word out, and people like to talk to Tom. There were a lot of selfies and a lot of really good conversations. So that was really fun. And we both went on the Wook Plus broadcast, our friends at Wook Plus. So we got to sit down and talk with them a little bit. It was just a cool afternoon, and a lot of great people from our community came together. So it was really fun. And I guess I can say now that if you're in Nashville or Charlottesville or Asheville, North Carolina, we're going to be coming to your town in the next couple of weeks to do a few shows with some music and conversation and talk about Sugar Maple and a lot of other stuff. And there's more information about those shows on the internet at osirispod.com. So that's a quick plug, but we're going to keep the road show going, which is exciting.
Very cool. I love the fan art shows. People should always go and check them out when there is one outside a show you're attending. They're they're so much fun. We've done like live podcasting
Yeah.
at them before in the way back, and those
I think we
Plus
need to
guys
do
are a lot
them.
of fun too.
I think we need to do all of the fan art shows that we can. I think it's a great place to. It's probably like maybe the best place to connect with Osiris fans in one place.
That would be
It
great.
right there.
Sounds like a
That's
business
really
meeting. But yeah, maybe.
Behind the curtain.
It's great. That's where, engaged fans go. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
It seemed
I
really
guess you-
popular too. It seemed like a lot of people were there, which is great.
Yeah.
There was a line, and I don't know, I haven't been to enough of them to know, but there was a line out of the room to the point where when it was like 12:01, it was like probably 200 people came in, and then there was just
Wow.
a line of people, and it didn't stop the entire time. It was nuts.
Cool.
Pete did a
amazing.
great job. Pete Mason of fan art. Okay.
We should give a huge shout out to Pete Mason, who is a guest on Undermine season 3. Look forward to some of his excellent words about the run and about his experience in New York for those 3 weeks. But yeah, just amazing stuff that he does. I got to watch a little bit of the Look Plus broadcast, and we also had those guys on Thursday, I want to say it was, to talk through the first night, and they are hilarious and insightful and great dudes to talk fish with. It was awesome. So let's get to the serious business here, okay? Which is the music. I think we all had fun, even those who watched from home, which, as we've learned, is not the same. It's not the same. I can't take in the music the same way from home,
It's not.
So they tell me. But I had a good time. I was dancing the whole time on my back patio. I didn't stop. We got 4 nights of fish. Would have been 3 2021 shows and 1 2022 show. I won't get into the nuances of how different it would have sounded had those shows been played in 2021 and 2022. But we got to hear the band shift up their sound in ways that changed a little bit slightly from Mexico. It seemed like changed a little bit from the fall. Jonathan, you listened from afar just like I did. Did you hear any sort of like different approach, any different style of jamming compared to what we've heard over the last 6 or 8 months?
I don't know that I exactly could put my finger on a different style. I think that Trey and company have been kind of flirting with a lot of different things over the past year and a half since they came back. Is it 2? Yeah, a little over a year, and I think that they're just not quite. They're not really in a. Actually, I kind of think they're maybe in the new space now, but it all sounds familiar. So there's a little less of the balls to the wall synth effect from Trey, but he is using it.
Yeah.
Page is leaning heavy in his synths, unless they take them all away so they can do a gag. Mike sounds great, certainly from home. I read some comments that said he sounded really good in the room too. And Fishman is a goddamn machine. That guy must practice so much. And he looks well as compared to Mexico. Let's go ahead and shout that out, right? Like Fish went to a barber, and like my dude got cleaned up. He's no longer the beach bum. I guess he decided that beach bum look wasn't going to play in good old New York City. So you gotta tighten it up a little.
Yeah, they take you in for that, but they just let you hang out on the beach in Mexico if that's
Yeah.
how you look. So it worked. I was really blown away listening back to some of these jams today. Fishman, I don't know if he's done this before, if I'm just noticing new things. He was playing around on his synthesizer, his snare drum, like for extended measures. All he would play, it sounded like, was a snare drum, and he'd find so many new sounds and so many new beats out of it that like usually you would think of him playing his snare, playing some toms, playing some cymbals. And I found all these moments where he was just building based off of the snare, just that in and of itself. And it kind of blew me away that he was reducing everything he can do drumming to a single drum in front of him. Doesn't really tell me anything about where the band is at. It just was an interesting takeaway for me. Anything new you guys hear before we jump into some of our favorite sets and jams of the overall week?
I just wanted to say that I feel like there's been a big shift from using a lot of these new sounds and textures that they were using in the summer and the fall and playing a little bit more cleanly and using a lot less effects and a lot less ambient kind of weirdness. I think that they've been trying to play a little more melodic in their jams, and definitely Trey's tone is super clean right now. That really stood out at MSG to me. And I also could not stop. I usually don't watch the band. I'm usually too short or I just am dancing and not looking. But I kept, in those moments when I was pausing, I kept watching Fishman because he was really incredible. I was hearing him and catching him when I was dancing in moments that I don't usually hear him. I really thought he was MVP.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the clean tone because that's definitely a factor that I'm going to bring up in my highlights and some of the related jamming. But at the same time, it wasn't always there, like the Piper jam, for example. Trey got nasty. The Simple jam, Trey gets dirty, and they all go with him. I think that's actually possibly the thing, the development is that they're really staying together as they move through these changes and types of jams very well, and so it's not, it's never Trey triggering a bliss jam that everybody's like, oh, okay, let's go. It's they're all there at that same time, just beautifully, and they've been doing that for a while, but I just feel like they're doing it very well right now, and I can't wait to hear how it carries through to summer.
Totally agree, especially when they're playing a lot more. I mean, they haven't played that much together in 6 months. So I think they're going to tighten up even more.
Right. Yeah, I heard a lot of jams that I just kept thinking that it was effortless. It just felt like they were just talking to each other. And there was no, I'm going to do this. Can you guys follow me? Everything just kind of seemed to make sense in a really cool way musically. RJ, I want to turn to you because I know that you have to run here shortly. I wanted to ask you, do you have a favorite? And if so, what is it? And if you don't, what are your 6 favorite jams from the overall weekend?
Well, first of all, I just want to respond to this this listener viewer Brandon who asked, "Did you see the Pixel Wooks truck outside fan art?" And I did because it was right across from the Stewart. So I saw it many times, and I had no idea what was going on, but it was a truck, one of those display trucks with like pixel like video game characters of a bunch of Wooks. So yes, and I'm still confused.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think the Carini from the first night, was just such a great way to start the run, and I think it was a ballsy move to play a 20-minute jam straight out of the gates. The second set of the second night was just perfect. Like it was the songs like a long Chalk Dust into a long Tweezer is, I mean, how can that possibly be?
Seems okay to me.
And yeah, anything other than just amazing. So that whole set, I think, is what I keep going back to. But that's more than one thing. But I do think like each night, in terms of the jamming, like it sounded pretty similar to Mexico, in which I thought was amazing, in that there was a lot of variety and a lot of like moving seamlessly between themes, like you guys were saying. I felt like it was just a continuation of the amazing Mexico run. So I think I didn't notice like much difference. I think I noticed more difference between fall and Mexico than Mexico and this, which I guess makes sense because it wasn't that long ago. But I don't know. Did you hear differences between this and Mexico in terms of that, like the sound, the overall sound?
Mexico
I definitely
was like
get
a
what
year
you're
ago, right?
It was 3 variants ago. That's how we measure time now.
And there it is. I hear what you're saying. I think that there's, I was listening to 10/29/21 from Vegas yesterday afternoon, which, side note, I was just like, there's such an embarrassment of riches from Fish over the last 10 months that like, that's an amazing show. And I think I've listened to it twice. And in previous years, like I would have probably listened to it, 10 times by now type of thing, just kept it on and stuff. I definitely noticed a bigger difference from that to now versus Mexico. I think the only difference I found between Mexico and here is Trace seemed to be leaning more heavily on his effects in Mexico while pushing towards a more kind of blissful, ambient, melodic type of jam in Mexico. Whereas here, it felt like at times, like the Chalk Dust and Tweezer are the best examples I can come up of this, where he didn't really even want to like touch his effect board at all. And he just wanted to play straight notes. And it was a very different sound than what we were hearing last year, that everything was shrouded in effects and everything built upon this kind of swell of noise. And there was what sounded like kind of anger and frustration within their music at times last year that came through in a really powerful way. Whereas here it felt like, we keep coming back to the word clean. It felt like they just wanted to have a very clear conversation with each other, and they wanted to really kind of savor the moment. It's kind of the way I took it. Charlie's question here up on the board: how would you all compare MSG 2022 to Vegas 2021? I think the only difference I would say outside of what I just described is Vegas clearly to me feels like the peak of 3 to 4 months of music being worked on. And it feels like this celebration of, look at what we did since we came back in Arkansas, and look at what we can do just at a moment's notice. And I think one of the coolest things about Fish is that there's constant evolution. And most of MSG felt to me like new ideas untapped that we may look back after this first run in the summer, or after, say, like the Alpine shows later in the summer, and point to moments from MSG that the band was experimenting with and was a fully fleshed out idea by the time we got to late summer.
I think Vegas as a whole was heavier than these MSG shows, and not to the detriment of either. I just think it was overall a bit heavier and denser as well.
And that's partially sorry. I was just going to say real quick, Megan, just partially that's because of the album that they ended up playing, which was denser and heavier, right? But some of that stuff has obviously stayed with them.
Yeah, I think that album completely influenced their playing, obviously, last summer and fall. I felt like this is a much more uplifting sound, really positive. I thought that started in Mexico, too. I think they kind of started to make a more melodic, uplifting kind of bliss center jams, but different. I think their blissy peaks now are a little more soulful, which I think is awesome. I just think they found a lot of really nice tones in some of these bliss peaks that I hadn't heard before. I also, I just think they've done a really nice job with that. And I think that moving forward, they're definitely going to evolve even more, which is why we love this band.
They even have a song called Evolve that is bright and melodic and feels like where Fish is moving in 2022 thus far. I don't know. Maybe
but where does it go though? Like what is the next sound? I mean, there's no way to explain it or talk about it, right?
There's no point guessing. We're just wrong. Let's just go ahead and say, hey, I'm wrong.
Oh, you know what's one thing that is the same about Vegas and MSG though is the energy. I think they brought tremendous energy to MSG. Totally. And I think
and so did the audiences, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think both of them had that like major vibe going in that like, I think that expectations were really high for both runs, and I think they delivered in both runs just with energy for sure.
Yeah.
I think the question of like, where does it go is really interesting. And I don't think any of us can predict like musically where it goes. I think I was thinking about this though over the weekend, like, if you think back to early 3.0, when there was all this discussion and you could kind of hear it even coming through the band's music of like, can they recapture, that shock magic of like anything can happen at any point during a show. There was so much work that went into that for years. The accomplishments of like Magnaball or the Baker's Dozen, all the music that's been written, them coming back from the pandemic and just like playing this stunning 2021 back half of the year. I don't really know what else this band can do. And I feel like they're in a really sweet spot where they're just going to keep playing and evolving as things naturally come. And they're just like, they're playing with house money essentially at this point in time. They can really do whatever they want. And as a result, we're just seeing the music kind of change as they age, as their interests age, or as their interests change, and as their friendship, only continues to grow.
I saw them taking a lot of risks this week too, which I think is awesome, and why they're continuing to have great moments.
Yeah, I mean, start with that big Carini opener. Like they play this song that doesn't have to have a jam, and they just throw the door open, and 19 minutes later, holy cow, what has just happened? And we all knew, whether you're in the room or you're at home watching, we knew it was on. Oh, and it slips right into Possum after this Bliss jam. So good, so good.
I
Really good
I do. I want to just point to one part of the tweezer
Yes.
jam with the My Pet Cat, but it's like
Oh,
it's like a
so
dreamy, blissful
just-
melodic thing.
I was just
It's
playing my
like-
guitar along with that, like
Ugh.
20 minutes ago, or right before we logged on here, so 40 minutes ago, and it's one of my favorite things from this weekend. I'm sorry I jumped on your comment there, RJ.
No,
but,
that's all I had to
like,
say.
I'm so
But
excited about that jam. Is
it similar? Is it like similar to most of those like blissful, dreamy jams, or was there something different about it to you from what you typically hear in a even in any of the other kind of blissful, happy
I feel
jams?
like Trey kind of established that, we're playing Your Pet Cat slowly sort of thing. And so with the band along for the ride, he was able to give us a beautiful solo over kind of a progression rather than building into a furious, blissful peak. They just kind of rode that for a while. And, other times they, spontaneously compose that progression. And this time, it was a bit half and half, right? It's familiar, but it's slowed down, which again, when you take something really intense like Your Pet Cat, is intense and funky, and slow it way down, it gets nice and psychedelic, and it just can really just opens up so much space. And it's just a beautiful major key jam at that point, and I loved it.
It's
And
so beautiful. That was going to be my choice for jam. I have others. Don't worry. I'm
Sorry.
not giving it up since
No,
it's already
no,
been brought up.
it's-
I'm going to use my backups, which I'm happy to do because it's hard to pick.
There's
but
lots
that-
of backup.
I have
There's
a
so
few.
many backups. Yeah.
See, I told you guys you can't pick one. That's why I pick 10 every time. Come on, you can't do
That
that.
tweezer, it's so beautiful. I mean, it's just, that set to me, that second set of the second night, the 30th show, of course, was just like you said, RJ. It was pure magic. I forgot what songs I was listening to. I was just on a journey. It was just a completely perfectly crafted set. That was my favorite show of the run, which is saying a lot because they were all incredible, I thought, in their own way. But that second set, I mean, those first 4 songs were just expertly played, and that tweezer is stunning.
Yeah, we talked about in the day after this set that like it's fascinating that the quote breather. RJ's leaving us for now. See you, RJ. Have a great rest of your
Bye,
evening.
RJ.
Bye, RJ.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for taking all of our jams.
Seriously.
I have
Came in,
more.
he
Let's-
took our set, our jams, and then he's out.
All right, I'm gonna repeat like 20 more really fast before I leave. Just kidding. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Yeah, man. We talked about this on Friday in recapping the second night, that like that second set, I don't know, the song selection is so fascinating to me. The song selection from that set and the final night's first set are so almost deliberately old school in a way that you really don't see Fish doing much anymore. You really see them now emphasizing their new material. And you think about the 3-set show from Friday, the 22nd. That show really focused on new material in big spots. The Set Your Soul Free and Everything's Right opening up the first and second set. But the
Big Fuego in the middle and all that.
Big Fuego, Big Light,
Waves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Waves. Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to me that they essentially played two essentially one complete show, but just like spread
Mhm.
across different nights of material that would have all been 1.0 material and really showcased the origins of the band in some really cool ways. The Chalk Dust Tweezer was also my pick for jam of this run. So we're all in agreement here on this. It's just
so we're done.
we're done. It's
Bye,
everything that we were just talking about, like the clean approach, there's not a ton of emphasis on effects. And this really cool thing you get is that Trey keys in on a chordal progression that happens to be your pet cat, and he's playing it slow. And rather than sounding hypnotic and funky and kind of herky jerky in some ways, like it sounds beautiful, and it sounds like, you know, just that the color of the sky just after the sun sets. Like that's what that jam sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the Magnaball tweezer. It's just like, however I can get that music on a loop, that's what I want in my brain at all times.
Yeah, that's like the soundtrack to Peace or something. It's really pretty.
It really
gorgeous.
is.
So, you know, originally we were going to go show by show, and I think there's a value in not doing that because we've done that for 4 days. But my notes are like that. So maybe we could do a couple like quick hits per show, like bing,
do it.
bing, 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 you know, and I'll
Does
get the
that work
ball
well with
rolling.
your notes, Jonathan? Does
Yeah,
that
that'll
work well with
totally.
envelope?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
This is yeah. It's only half an envelope. So because I literally fished it out of the trash to write something on. It's recycling.
Earth Day.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Still
back
Earth
on track here. We've talked about the Carini. It's rad. But from night one, I think my highest highlight is probably the MoMA. MoMA is not super long. It is kind of straight ahead for a while, but then it gets out there for a little bit. It just has this just potent, gorgeous little jam that really makes you want to stay in it. And it lands in Leaves, which is pretty rad.
Mhm.
And then and I can't not mention the Stash, which is you know kind of weird and dope and heavy and dark the way Stash ought to be. And Down with Disease is just obvious. Everybody will listen to that, and you don't need my encouragement.
It's
But
cheese.
the Howling into Twist, like Howling is cool. The transition into Twist, totally money, so great. And so that's night one. Do you guys have night one comments? Let's hear them.
Yeah, this show was awesome. I was on the floor and I loved it. I agree. I think that I gotta say though, the Down with Disease jam, it's melodic and beautiful, and it has these like great rocking peaks. And then the Howling is this just awesome disco dance party madness and comes perfectly out of that jam. I think the first was it 4 or 5 songs of that set, I think that was a really great flow. Loved it. It was so fun to be in the room for.
And you were
And
probably ready for a little cool down in Mountains of the Mist, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Always.
dancing so hard during Down with Disease and Howling, so it was perfect. And Twist.
I re-listened to the Carini this morning while I was driving home from dropping my kids off at school. And in the moment, I remember when the show started, like I was sitting in a chair on my back porch and I was like, I can't sit. I was so like before they started playing, I was so just like suddenly filled with tension and nerves. Like I've said this over the weekend and I'll say it again, like this show reminded me in some cases of the Arkansas show from last year, just because like, I don't know how you play this show. I have no idea how you as a professional musician who's so reliant on your audience for connection and energy and communication, walk on stage to your favorite venue after the show's been canceled and you haven't played in this venue for 2.5 years. I just don't know how you do this. Like that's the amount of willpower that these guys must have had to be able to soak in the energy of the moment, but then also be able to play music professionally. Like insane. Come on.
That's why you play Carini.
That's why they're fish. Their job is to reprocess that energy and send it
I'm
back
just
out.
talking about this
So
as a guy
there
who
it
just
is. It's
talks
just like-
about fish, you know? I just don't know. But they walk on stage, they play this Carini, and almost immediately they go into a jam. And someone was saying something about this yesterday during the show. One of the listeners, you know, the idea that they're leaning so much more heavily into their improvisation, in some cases may or may not perception wise be taken away from their approach to their compositions, which we won't rehash that conversation.
I'm happy to.
The thing that I took away from that though, in listening to this Carini, is like, it seems like their safe space now is jamming. And Trey is in such a rush in this Carini to get into a jam, and it's like the timestamp. It's like 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Yeah,
They
it's
changes
fast.
keys and they jam, and not only do they do that, and then they jam for 17 minutes, but there are like 3 distinct moments where the crowd comes in like you're listening to an audience tape, and the band responds directly to it, and then the crowd comes back, and it's something you don't usually hear on soundboards. You know, Fish is really good at, like, you'll get some crowd noise in the soundboard, but like they're really gonna allow you to hear the music, and then the crowd will come in after the song.
Yeah.
Like, they mixed this so you can hear the crowd be like, oh my god, we're one song into this show and you guys are doing this improvisationally right now. Holy hell. And I listened to it, I turned the volume all the way up, I rolled the windows down even though it was like 42 degrees. I was like, it just feels right, like other people need to
Yeah.
hear this. And I was elevated. So
But I
that
think
was
that's
going back, that's my highlight of that show.
exactly what you're saying, Brian, is that energy and that connection with the audience is unparalleled, honestly. And so that's why I get frustrated when I hear people nitpicking, and calling it sloppy, when this is a band that's playing at a level that very few bands ever even come close to. So they're allowed to miss a few notes. They just are. When they can come in and play that song to open that show under the circumstances you've described, like, we have to give them passes for that. And yeah, it's okay to talk about it, but I think to call them sloppy or it's just, sloppiness. We were talking about a little bit before we went on air, but being sloppy means you're not paying attention to detail. It means you're not focused, you're not in the moment, and that is not how you can describe this band. It's just inaccurate.
I mean, if people want note precision or whatever, they could go. Well, they can't go on Pink Floyd tour anymore. Tool still plays, right? You could go to one of those
Tool
bands.
still plays, yeah.
Yeah, go to a band
and some of y'all will. That's fine.
I think, and before we jump into the second night, like the point you're making about not paying attention is such a good one. And I think it's something I think should be emphasized further, because I don't necessarily think when mistakes are made, the band is just like, like these are professionals who like
they know.
get up on stage nightly and they probably know when they make a mistake. And they probably also, I don't think that there's like a willingness of like, all these people paid upwards of $100. Who cares if we miss a couple notes? Like, I don't think that that's how they're driven.
There was a time.
We will talk about that for the
You keep
20th
threatening.
anniversary.
Yeah.
I'm not threatening.
This is a really
anything.
long-term threat.
It was my island tour. I was a young kid driving hours through the nights through the mountains.
Moving on.
No, but like, I don't think that they're wired to just be like, whatever, these people paid for the show, we're going to go up on stage and play however we play. Like, they're really thinking about it. And I think there are moments where playing the songs that they play and improvising on the level that they do, and with no fallback, like aside from the third set on Friday night, which is a 1 out of every 50, 60 show event where there's a spectacle that goes along with the music. If they fall on their faces on stage, they are doing that with nothing to hold them up. There's no crazy, there's crazy lights, but there's no like crazy set design. There's no escape. It's like those guys on a stage, and if something goes wrong musically, everybody hears it. So I don't really
They
think
should
they're
get
getting
some
on stage
dancers to
thinking
stand in the wings for when that happens. They just come running
That's a good
out and
point.
do a little thing.
I'm
little kick
available.
line. Yeah.
Meg's doing it. Meg's got it.
I'm available.
Just like a stand-up comic who can come up and be like, while Trey's messing up, we're going to tell a few jokes while they get tuned up here. No.
Yeah, what was that? Trey kept going like, doing that little like, ta-da.
Jazz hands. Yeah. As long as they do an all fall down signal before they land on their faces.
Oh, that's a good
Ooh,
idea.
I like that. That's a really good idea.
So night 2, I don't have a lot more to talk about on night 2 than what we've already said, talking about the Chalk Dust and Tweezer. There's good jams in the first set, arguably great jams in the first set, really good jams in the second set. The Character Zero, Tweezer Character Zero bears mentioning because it's a thing that hasn't really happened, and it happened very seamlessly and outstandingly. I don't know, it went well. So if you guys have comments on night 2, please.
I think the Wolfman's Brother and Ghost have to be talked about. They were just really well played. I mean, that Ghost jam's awesome. And the Wolfman's was just funky and really tight, really, really good. I think the whole show, I think the first set too was set list construction was awesome. We talked about this a little bit the day after, but whenever they chose to slow down and take small moments, they chose to with really interesting songs like Man Who Stepped Into Yesterday, Avinu Makenu, Esther. They're not Mango Song.
Yeah.
They're not just like throwing away those down moments, which I think is like incredible. And playing old songs, like you were saying, Brian, like it's thoughtful. And just this night was really, really magical.
I will say this run could have used a shade, but that's
Ooh,
just me.
I would have loved that.
Yeah, see.
I would have loved that.
It is
Right.
interesting that like we talk so much about these, or we're talking about these old songs that were really, played in kind of showpiece, show-stopping type of manners throughout this run. I don't know if like the band is currently writing a lot of new music, but you think about last summer, there was an emphasis on we're going to play either a new song or a relatively new song in a big spot because we want to see where this song can be. I wonder in some cases, and I'm just thinking about this offhand, if part of their thought process going into this run was let's not really test people with new music. Let's not really challenge, because I don't think there was a single debut during this run.
This is for now at least. This is the year after the year. So this is the year
Right.
after the album year. So everything's a
Mhm.
little bit tested, and now it's like let's integrate it. And the old stuff is here. The newer stuff is just like the old stuff. It gets its shot, and we'll bring it out now and then. We're just but it's got to compete with all the other songs.
I wonder if any of the stuff from Trey's new acoustic album is going to come out.
I am very down for a acoustic number before the final encore number.
yeah.
Maybe it's like 6.5 minutes. I'm into that. I'd be very into that. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. That's a good point, Jonathan. The idea of like, it's the year after the year. I think about like 2015, where probably the best jam vehicle throughout that entire summer was Tweezer, which was 25 years after Tweezer debuted. And every single version of Tweezer that summer is totally worth hearing and totally worth absorbing because it was amazing. You got obviously some great newer songs during that run, but you also got these like older songs that were really stepping forward. Yeah, I think the Ghost, just sick stuff, just sick. Should we get to the 22nd?
Yeah. So
So
I want to go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, just to preface the show, like going into this run, I was really excited from afar to watch some new Fish and get some new songs. I didn't think a ton about this show going in the way that I would have like a normal New Year's show. And I didn't really have a good feeling of like, are they going to do a gag or are they just going to give us 3 sets of Fish? Kind of started to feel like they were going to give us a gag as we moved into the run. I know Ryan Storm commented on our first show that like you could see that the risers were all on wheels, even the first night, so that they could be moved off. But I kind of could see Fish doing everything straight and like playing a Fish show. I could also see them going to the extreme and having balloon drops and singing or playing Auld Lang Syne and wishing a Happy New Year and just like leaning into it as like, haha, we're here. It just moved 4 months ahead of time. Personally speaking, I think that they did the most perfect middle ground here. And this is my favorite show of the overall run. And I think that the third set from a visual, conceptual, and musical standpoint is one of the greatest sets that the band has ever played. I don't have a list of what that all looks like, but I just think like from an art piece standpoint, it's one of the biggest accomplishments that they have had. I'll pause then because I have more to say about jams here, but John, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I went to a show on this night, and it was an early evening show. Jeffrey Alexander and the Heavy Litters. So got some good Dougal jam on. It was dope. And then I got in the car to drive home and just kind of like checked out. I tuned into a little bit of a stream just for a few and listened to the Bathtub Gin. But it wasn't going to hold out. I put on something else. And I got home and, settled in and time to watch set 3. And I watched set 3 and wow, beautiful. The gag, like I can't not talk about the gag as I wasn't here the day after. So it was beautifully executed. It's like they kept ramping it up. Like, oh, they're going to rise up and oh, it's a screen and that's cool. It's a little, we were texting about this, Brian, at the time, it's a little like the pyramid thing and whatever the hourglass thing they did that one time. And oh, wait, what's this waterfall with lights and what? And okay, that's a dolphin. It's just like, what the hell? But it was amazing, and the theme of and the songs and everything, and the execution of the music and the gag was beautiful, well done. So going back and listening to the first 2 sets actually took me some time to get around to them. I didn't get around to them the next morning, and I think the first set's pretty good. To me, the Axilla is the thing. The jam out of Axilla Part 2 is super great. So glad you get to hear that, Meg. And I thought the Bathtub Gin was, I think the Bathtub Gin is average great. It didn't really get there, but there's some good stuff, a little plasma jamming in there, I think, and some other stuff that I kind of enjoyed. Set 2, the Fuego into Light Jam is cool. Set Your Soul Free. I've listened to it once and it didn't like sink its teeth into me, so you guys can testify to it. But the Fuego into What's the Use, the jam into What's the Use is outstanding. And all of set 3 is good, but the thing is that this Split Open and Melt is what Split Open and Melt is supposed to be. And they've been doing a pretty good job of it lately. They did a great job of it at this show. And that's probably that's my keeper for the night.
Meg, you were in the room. One quick thought before I pass the mic your way virtually. I've been really taken looking at pictures and seeing videos since then. And I don't know if it was just like in the moment, it was like all overwhelming from afar, but I've been really taken by how much it like legit looks like they're playing under the ocean.
Mhm.
Like the way the lights and the smoke, and like when you see like the whale passing by, you're like, that's like a David Attenborough video. Oh wait,
Mhm.
but there's
Right.
fish, type of thing. What was it like in the venue as that all was happening? Because they do such a good job with the production on this sort of stuff, and this one was one of the best they've ever done.
Yeah, I think there was this dreamlike quality to it because it lasted a really long time. Like you were saying, Jonathan, the thing, it just kept evolving, right? It was first the stage just slowly rises up and it's like, oh, that's cool, and you see this white sheet, on the other side of the stage, and then you see
And-
the word free come up and they start like bubbling up through the sheet and you're like, wow, that's so cool. They're gonna like play with the sheet a little bit and have like words pop up. And then it's like, it was interesting because we saw these 2 I saw they had like dolphins at the edge of the stage during the first 2 sets off to the side. And I said to my friend, I was like, what are those dolphins there? And he was like, oh, they're probably just balloons that got like, or, balloons that got pushed up there. Like the other night there was a chicken, so we were like, oh, okay. But to me, I was like weird because they were actually like facing out, sitting 2 on the exact side I don't know what they were on, speakers or something right off the stage. I don't know if they were like sitting there waiting. It was unclear, but it was just to see everything come out. It was like you didn't see where things came from. Like I never saw where the first dolphin came from. The whale just came out of nowhere. And it was like this really ambient, like slow moving thing. And everyone was kind of getting a different look as it went around. And it was totally transfixing. And it was just like one of those incredible gags because it just kept being amazing. Because after that happened, then they started to put all these bubbles in, and then it really started to look like you were deeper in the ocean. Like it started to feel like you were going down, like Split Open and Melt, right? Like you're
kelp hanging
yeah,
in
you're
the
really
seaweed there.
down, and that came down, and then there was they pumped so many bubbles in there. I couldn't figure out if they were pieces of like little paper or lights, or because all of the lights were catching them, and so it was glistening like water does. It was just really, truly epic and just beyond anything. I think even the pictures show. I couldn't see it like from the front because I was on the side. I was page side, like kind of looking right down, which is a really cool spot to be. But just to see, and then the rain, like, which reminded me of the petrichor. I was there for that New Year's, and then they start projecting lights onto the rain. I mean, it was also amazing because when you think about what these design meetings must have been like,
Right.
people may have been like, this sounds like a lot, or like this could be too much, but they just went for it. And that's what I love about Fish. They don't hold back. They went for it. It was my favorite gag I've ever seen, for sure.
I got to credit the live Fish production. People often have negative things to say about live Fish video editing. Sometimes, like I want more close-ups of Trey's fingers, or I want this. And everybody wants something from them, which is going to happen with anything. But I thought they did a pretty good job of capturing it. They had long shots and shots from kind of different vantage points that you don't normally see during those shows that were it gave us at least a fair idea of what the hell was going on in there and
That's
how
so
cool
awesome
it
to
looked.
hear. Yeah, that's
There's a
so
great
cool.
the 4K video on YouTube of what is it, of Waves into Sand is up now. It's on YouTube. So if you were there, you can now watch it like the rest of us.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have to do that because I definitely didn't see it
It's
from the
cool.
front. Yeah, but this whole show was really, really awesome. I think just so many good moments. I think the Everything's Right was beautiful, uplifting. The tube was awesome. Like he was using some really cool effects in the end of that tube. That was a real jamming tube. Axela, yeah, I mean, I was so happy. I was so happy about it. It was my first one. I love that song so much. Sorry, my dog does too, apparently. Yeah, I think there's so many good moments in this. And then Set Your Soul Free into Light, into Fuego was great. I mean, when Fuego came on, I was like, yeah, this is the perfect vibe for it now. And What's the Use was absolutely beautiful. I haven't heard it since 99. Sorry,
Wow.
my dog's really being annoying. I thought my favorite two moments of the first two sets were definitely Axela and What's the Use. They were just nailing those like beautiful, spacey, really patient, quiet moments. Unlike my house right now.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, I don't have anything more to say about set 3. It blew me away, and the tie back to the 1993 New Year's Eve set, 30 years in advance. 30 years in advance. I thought it was amazing from a career spanning standpoint. Set 2, like we've talked a lot about the uplifting melodic music of this weekend, which I agree with everyone on, and I thought it was a stunning, evolutionary next step for the band. The one thing I loved about this second set, which may be my favorite set of the overall run, unless I've already said that another set was, and if that's the case, I'm just going to say this was my other favorite
Typical
set.
Brian fashion.
Very typical. Everything's good, This set felt like a 2021 set. It was dark. It was ominous. The band was experimenting in just like this kind of underworld type of manner. I have this comment up, but I'll throw it back up just from a context standpoint. Brendan Daly says set 3 is an astonishing achievement for the band, but I have to seriously prop set 2. I really thought that set was a masterclass in deep jamming, and I couldn't agree more. And you get this very rough transition into Fuego that then turns into yet another extension of this kind of harrowing jamming, this idea of, and I say harrowing as HARROWING for those of you listening out there and wanting to tisk me. I know what I'm saying. It was ominous. It was terrifying at times. It was this 3-song suite of, and I would encourage you, John, go back and listen to that Set Your Soul Free.
I will.
It's great. You will.
It's a lot of content here, y'all.
There's a lot.
I know, it's exhausting.
I thought from a flow standpoint, it really is. Some people have to do it. It's crazy. From a flow standpoint, which we've talked a lot about the idea of flow on this show. Those 3 songs, all newish Fish songs, You go into what's the use, which almost resets everything and is so quiet and so contemplative. And what comes out of that, but one of the happiest, most joyful, most loving, endearing fish songs ever written. And not only do we get Numberline, but we get Numberline dedicated to Bella Anastasio, whose birthday it was that day, which was just such a sweet, wholesome moment between Trey and his daughter. And just
That was
coming at the end of that set, just like way to brighten things up. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, it set everybody off on like a really great feeling. Like to end Numberline that way, to feel like, okay, we're going into set 3. Like it was really good vibes.
Should we close
Night
this
4?
out with the final night? Night 4?
Night 4.
Yeah, let's do it.
What a garbage set they opened with. Oh my God. Can I
Terrible,
just tell
terrible.
you, who the hell thinks that Fluffhead, Mike's, Hydrogen, We Could Pop is a good way to open a show? Besides me, and probably you, and maybe you, and probably all these people in the chat, and everybody else who's in the room. What? That's pretty badass, actually. Like, come on. Like,
And then to
I
go
don't like
into
old
an
fish.
absolutely rocking Simple with like a crazy new Sci-Fi Soldier song stuffed
Right.
in the middle. I mean, that Simple was definitely on the top of my list for Jam of the Weekend, because that Simple is
badass.
really
It's badass,
really
Simple.
cool.
It is actually not my pick of the show, though. It's a really
Ooh.
great Simple, and also surprisingly not my pick of the show is this 27-minute No Man in No Man's Land, which is awesome.
Oh, I love
too.
that one. That was so fun to dance to. That is a really, really, really good jam.
Oh, I'm sure it was
Really good
kick
jam.
ass to dance to in the room,
was.
and Brian on the patio was probably dancing his ass off to it too. But the actually Caspian.
It was so
It's
good.
so strong and a little heavy,
Yeah.
almost dark. It's still type 1, kind of
Yeah.
Caspian, but it's like it kind of ripped and
It was
then
a beautiful
into a great piper.
version.
A great piper.
Super
Outstanding
driving
vocals.
that Piper. It was
Like,
just like
Heavy,
moving.
dark, a
Yeah.
little bit more of the stuff that we got in Simple.
Mhm.
And just outstanding. I got the transition to Got a Jabu was not the best of the weekend, but it was fine. And Jabu has a nice little jam. I love the call for I always wanted it that way. After that, it's felt late, but cool. Into Lonely Trip, it's a little slow down, kind of late, but a pretty song. Not always time for some Neil Young. And then Walls of the Cave to close a set, pretty great. And when the encore started, it was bedtime for me already. I was literally in bed, and I had it on, and I was like, okay, Wilson. All right, that means there's going to be like a 4. It's either just Wilson, but more likely a 4 or 5 song encore. Okay, only got 3. They played David Bowie
They're
and more.
so lazy, this band.
So lazy. No, I just knew they were going to play several songs. I just didn't, 4 or 5. If it hadn't been a 10-minute David Bowie, which was a very good David Bowie, but
Yeah.
Quite good.
not extended, pure type 1, but good. And then, they might have packed 2 songs in instead of just that one, but and then more. And a good way to end. But yeah, Caspian into Piper is my pick for this, you guys. I just think that
Wow.
segment is really hot, really good, and like unexpectedly good.
Yeah, because Caspian can be a throwaway. It can be just like a kind of like a cool down where they're not, I don't know, they didn't throw it away. They really focused. It was really
Caspian,
tight.
yeah, sometimes it's like, out of a big, sometimes it comes out of the big jam and it's like the breath.
Yeah.
A little soaring guitar, and now Carini or something, Here instead it had meat on that guitar. Yeah, teeth, and then a heavy Piper. So good. So good.
Yeah, and that No Man's was like really good. He was doing that like Plinko Calypso style jam, really delicate. He was like barely touching the strings, it seemed like. And then it just gets into
Plinko with a melody. It was,
Yeah, it was
which is great, and what we needed
good.
back when Plinko jams were common.
Yeah. And Fishman was just killing it. He was just driving. It was so good. Yeah.
I said this
Show-
yesterday, but I think it's a great show. This is my pick for. I would have this as the. Well, I'm not going to rank. I'll say 2 things. instead.
Second overnight too.
This
think
is his
and
pick for the best Saturday night show played in the last 10 days.
His favorite.
I think I would have night 2 over it.
Okay.
I said this yesterday, and I think it bears repeating. Most New Year's Day shows tend to be very mellow, and it seems like band and audience kind of just needs like a night that's just a concert. And you get like, I think the 2016 New Year's Eve show. So when they played 12:30, 12:31, 2015, and then they did the first and the second in 2016. It's kind of just a show until they get to this very good late second set light that is very mellow, but it just like summarizes the vibe of that show. And I kind of expected this show to be pretty mellow based on everything I was hearing from people who were there, based on how people were feeling in the afternoon leading up to it. It just, it felt like if there's going to be a show that's not necessarily a reset, but a more reflective piece than a party.
I thought it was going to be mellow too.
And then it was a party.
It was
like
not.
an insane party from the start of it. Like we were just settling in, watching it, and we're like, oh my God, like Fluffhead, and it's a killer Fluffhead. And now we get Mike's Groove. And now we get this crazy Simple Jam. So I was blown away by the fact that the band was able to show up for this show after the previous night, and the audience was able to show up in the way that they both did, to the fact that it felt like a Friday night show on the first night of a really big run where everybody was just amped and nobody's feeling tired from being at a show. It had the reverse of being the final night of a show. The other thing I thought was really interesting in the first set was, again, similar to night 2's second set, this is a very, very old school first set. And yet prominently placed there in the middle of that Simple Jam is an Egg in a Hole jam.
Perfect.
And how cool it is that old Fish is hanging out with very, very new Fish. And this idea
Like
that
time
this
travel.
band,
Sci-Fi
like
Soldier
time
is
travel.
timeless, y'all.
Yeah, it's time travel.
really is. That's a good point. This No Man was very impressive. I have this as the strongest No Man since 10/25/18, which is a great version from Allstate Arena. But I'm right there with you, Jonathan. The Piper was the jam for me. I have a soft spot for Piper. I, like Jonathan, named children after this song. It's one of my favorite Fish songs of all time. And yeah, it's just very special on that sort of standpoint. And anytime they play it with this kind of creativity, it elevates the show a bit more for me.
Absolutely. Love the song. Love this version. Like this show. It's a good show.
It's a good show.
I think we have a listener who's asking us to rank them. That's hard.
No.
That's really hard. Night 2 is my
Pass.
number 1. I'll say that.
Night
At
1
6
is
p.m.
the best
Eastern,
night
the
1.
Fish ranking show will be coming on the Osiris radio hour. No.
Night 2 is the best night 2. Night 3 is the best night 4. And night 4 is the best night 5. Figure that out.
Wait, I just got confused.
Yeah.
You're going to have to rank that for me.
Okay. I'll do that for homework.
This was a good run. A great run. Some would
Yeah.
say an excellent run.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, Fish played, and it didn't suck. So there you go.
At the very
was
least,
awesome.
Fish played, and it did not suck. I think we did it.
I think so.
Yeah.
So we have 5 weeks until Fish returns, and they are returning in Alabama. And they're going to play right next to the beach. And then they're
3
going to play in
nights.
Charleston, South
Nice.
Carolina. 3 nights next to the beach. They really like playing next to the beach. It's something in their old age. They're like, just give us salt water while we're playing music.
In their old
Then they
age.
play
time.
middle
Are
age,
they
Sorry.
old?
upper middle age.
They're older than me.
They're older than me.
And look at me.
You look great, Jonathan. What are you talking about?
So they're going to do Alabama, Charleston, South Carolina, and then Deer Creek, returning for a 3-night run at Deer Creek in this, our last of the mini tours of early 2022. It's going to be very cool. We're going to be able to look back in mid-June and look at Mexico, MSG, and this Memorial Day weekend run that I think will tell us a little bit more about the direction the band is going in, showcase some new creativity. I can all but guarantee we'll get some cool new jams. But for now, I think it's very cool that we have Fish in April to listen to for the next couple of weeks. I'm excited for it.
Me too.
Same.
Excellent. So we will be back before Fish gets back this Wednesday. We are talking 4/29/87. What is 4/29/87 and why are we talking about it? Well, it's 35 years since a fantastic soundboard quality 3-set show from Nectar's that was the first 80s tape I ever heard. It was a very heavily traded show from the 80s. Great set list, great playing. We'd love for all of you to listen to this as we jump back in time. We're going to get into the sci-fi soldiers spaceship, jump back in time to hang out with Fish at their first residency state and talk about 4/29/87. So check that out, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Megan, would you tell us before we go about Sunset Lake CBD one last time?
Absolutely. Sunset Lake CBD is a majority employee-owned hemp farm, and they're located just outside of Burlington, Vermont. For years, Sunset Lake was a dairy farm. They produced milk for Ben & Jerry's ice cream. And in 2019, they diversified and they started growing hemp for CBD. Sunset Lake embraces Vermont's tradition for land stewardship. They use sustainable, regenerative farming techniques. They also build and protect healthy soils. They're 100% pesticide-free. They use minimal tillage, and they implement cover crops and crop rotations. They do all the things to take care of the earth. They're Earth Day approved. They also serve as a research farm for the University of Vermont's agronomists to study hemp and inform best industry practices. This last week, I relied on Sunset Lake CBD heavily because I'm getting older, and this run was a lot for me. It was a lot. So I was taking CBD to relax after the shows, to go to sleep. I was using some salve. I was really relying on it. It was nice. And my friends were all coming to me after the show. They were all like, you know what we want, Megan? We want those CBD gummies. So they kind of depleted me. So I'm going to have to be ordering some. But they'll come super quick, which is why I love Sunset Lake CBD. So check them out at sunsetlakecbd.com. Use the coupon code HFPod for 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer owned, Vermont grown.
Beautifully done.
Thanks,
Beautifully
Jonathan.
done.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us. Charlie, we'll potentially rank at some point in the future. I know.
Brian's
Potentially.
rank. I've sat next to him. No, he's not. He's a delight. I'm just kidding.
Rude.
It's just a mean joke. I apologize. It's not in my nature. Yeah, it is.
Thank you, everyone.
Sorry.
It's okay. I've got lots of nature right now. Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us today. Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us, for giving us comments, for giving us your thoughts. We wouldn't do this without you. I mean, if we did, we would just be sitting in a room talking to ourselves. So it's really nice to be able to share our thoughts and our reviews and our silly thoughts on Fish with you all. Thank you so much, Jonathan, Megan. Anytime I get to hang with you guys and talk Fish, it is a good thing. RJ, thank you for hanging with us for a bit. We will see you all on Wednesday for a trip back into the spring of 1987. Till then.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, y'all.